In today's video, we're going to focus on Step 3, Learning to Share. This is the second video in a three-part series that focuses specifically on Step 3. The first video was called Step 3, Living the Step, Bringing the Step to Life, and Doing Interviews. This video is all about learning to share. So if you're interested in learning how to share, I want to invite you to stay tuned to watch this video. Hey, welcome. My name is Jay from Baltimore, Maryland, and I want to welcome you to the Financial UA General Service Office. So come on in and grab a seat, and let's get this meeting started. If you're ready to start working the steps, I want to encourage you, first of all, to get a qualified financial UA sponsor. A qualified financial UA sponsor is somebody who's already done a significant portion of the step work under the guidance and coaching and mentorship of a qualified financial UA sponsor. You may use these videos as a way to supplement your step work process. Something along the lines of a tutoring guide or a study guide to get a little extra insight or clarification about certain steps that you may be working on with your qualified financial UA sponsor. I would encourage you not to try to sponsor yourself. Generally, that does not work very well for the people who try to do that. If you're not sure about that particular suggestion about not trying to sponsor yourself, I would encourage you to put it to the test. You might consider going to a variety of different 12-step programs and interviewing 5 different members in each program, asking them what is their perspective and their experience around the idea of trying to sponsor themselves. How did that look? How did it turn out? What was their experience around that? Did it work or did it not work? And how did it feel? As with any part of the step work, the most important part is to try it and experiment and test it under real-world situations so that you know that this particular approach to working the 12 steps in financial UA is completely based on demonstrating it and experimenting in real time with real situations in the real world. That way you know you have a recovery process that works under real world conditions, one that's not just based in fantasy or ego, but based in a true spiritual process that transcends all situations and is completely applicable to all areas of your life. If you need to do a quick review of the step work so far, you might consider clicking right here if you want to review the video about Step 2, Quest for Power. You may click right here if you need to review the video on Step 2, Living the Step, Bringing the Step to Life, and Doing Interviews. You may click right here if you need to review Step 3, Living the Step, Bringing the Step to Life, and Doing Interviews. Let's talk about Step 3, Learning to Share. In your Financial UA 12-Step Workbook, I want to encourage you to turn to the chapter called Step 3, Learning to Share. Let's review this together. The basic idea around Step 3, Learning to Share, is that Step 3 is a process where we begin surrendering control of our lives. Part of the idea about surrendering, many people in recovery have thought it to be about giving something over and being completely hands-off, much like driving a car. If we're in the driver's seat of a car, we could surrender the driving to someone or something else, which means we completely take our hand off the wheel and let that other person or other entity do the steering for us. Well, In some cases that works just fine. In other cases, not so good. What I'd like to propose to you is that there's another way to look at surrender, and it's a little bit more practical in terms of what really happens in the real world situation. And that way to look at it is called learning to share. What learning to share means is that you are autonomous, as the traditions would suggest, meaning you have permission to live your life the way you want to live it, and you also have permission to share your life with whomever you wish. And that includes the higher power of your understanding. You, if you wish, may share your life with a higher power of your choosing. If we think about the car example, what learning to share looks like means that you would be sitting in the driver's seat with one hand on the wheel and allowing your higher power, the higher power of your understanding, to metaphorically have a hand on the wheel as well, so that both of you are sharing control of the direction of your car. In real world situations, how many people in program or in the world in general completely leave their life up to random chance? We make decisions every day. Do we make a decision to get out of bed, or do we lay in bed waiting for a higher power to get us out of bed? If you're anything like myself, I've done that before, and what happened is I stayed in bed because no external magical force got me out of bed. Usually it was just myself or my need to get up and go to the bathroom. So sometimes nature takes care of what our willpower is not willing to do. So what learning to share looks like is, instead of living a fantasy of expecting that we completely surrender decisions and control of our life over to the care of an entity that we can't necessarily see, but we can believe in if we choose, it's a way of choosing to invite a higher power of your choice to be a part of your decision-making process, so that you can make decisions and you can invite your higher power to make decisions, and that you both can make decisions together in partnership as a team. And one of the mottos of Financial UA is that recovery is a team sport. Recovery doesn't just happen by one person trying to do it themselves, much like one person does not get through the step work by trying to sponsor themselves. We need other people to work with. Recovery happens within relationships, and sponsorship is a spiritual relationship with another person. Also, when we connect and invite our higher power to be a part of our spiritual partnership, we become spiritually connected and have a spiritual relationship with that higher power. And together in that partnership, we are a team. In recovery, the best kind of teams are made up of oneself, one's sponsor, action partners, PRG teams, action teams, prosperity partners, prosperity teams, one's home group, the fellowship as a whole, your sponsees, and of course, your higher power. So there are a lot of spiritual entities, a lot of cooperating individuals that are all working together as part of a recovery team on your behalf to help you move through your recovery process. So learning how to share is all about being a part of that team, being a part of allowing help to come in, and being a part of reaching out to connect with other people. All the different types of addicts or alcoholics, they all have a tendency to be loners, to isolate, to separate themselves, and to shut other people out, trying to do things by themselves. That doesn't work too well over the long run. One saying I've learned over the years is, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, go with a group. When you're by yourself, you only have yourself to answer to, and you can move quickly, make fast decisions, and make fast progress. But it's a lonely path. It's an isolated path. And if anything ever happens, you're all on your own with no one to turn to other than yourself. And if you know from the get-go that you can't trust yourself, especially if you carry a spiritual disease inside of you that basically makes you insane, like Step 2 talks about, then you probably know that at some point when you're in your disease, you cannot trust yourself. Therefore, it's not a good idea to travel by yourself. So we turn to the other alternative. If you want to go far, travel in a group. Because even though moving in a group requires moving a little slower, because you can only move as fast as the slowest member of your group, but as a group, all of you can combine your strengths together and support each other. The group becomes stronger because it is the sum total of all the individual members. And that group can go much farther and has much more stamina because everybody supports themselves, and as a group, they can channel more power. So this is one of the things we learned in 12-step programs. We come together as a group to support each other, to channel a higher power of our understanding, and to heal as a group, as a team, as a fellowship. If we could have done all of that individually by ourselves, none of us would ever have ended up in a 12-step program. We ended up in 12-step because we realized we could not do it by ourselves. We were not successful traveling on our own. We realized we need the group, we need a team, we need a whole fellowship. We need to learn how to cooperate as a result of that. Like it says in Tradition 1, personal recovery depends on financial UA unity. We only recover individually when we are cooperating harmoniously with the fellowship as a whole, because when the fellowship recovers, all of the members of the fellowship recover. So again, we travel further as a group. You may be powerless, but you are not helpless. You have the ability to make a choice to allow help in, and also to reach out for help, and to ask for help, and to cooperate with others. You have permission, you have the ability to build a team around you of supportive recovery people who can support you, nurture you, and help you develop in your spiritual program. Sharing is very different from dumping. When we dump our disease, we usually single out an individual and then dump all of our problems on that individual and then expect that person to carry the weight of all of those problems. Basically, we take a hostage and then we abuse them by dumping. Sharing is very different from dumping. When we share within a mutually supportive, cooperative partnership with somebody. When we're dumping, we're basically looking for a good victim or a good hostage to unload all of our misery and unhappiness and expect them to carry the weight of all of that so that we no longer have to carry it ourselves. Sharing is when we have the weight of our burden and we carry it ourselves and we allow somebody to help us carry it as well. So we share the burden. Dumping is taking the entire burden off one's shoulders and putting it on somebody else. And what that does is it victimizes the other person. It's a form of abusing the other person. So I'd like to present to you, during your outreach calls or during your time in program, reflect on this idea. Do you share in meetings or do you dump? Do you share during your outreach calls or do you dump? When you share, is it constructive? Are you asking higher power and earning power, or any kind of power that you choose, are you asking that power, as well as the other person, to help you, to work with you as a team to carry the heavy load? Or when you do an outreach call, do you look for somebody that you know you can take advantage of and then dump all your problems on them, much like vomiting your problems on somebody, and then say, okay, you deal with the mess now, it's not my problem anymore? So you might consider this idea of sharing versus dumping. What does that mean for you? Can you reflect on experiences where you have shared? Perhaps you've had experience where you have dumped on somebody. Have you been in the other person's shoes where somebody shared with you? How did that feel? When you were in the position of having somebody dump on you, how did that feel? Write about that in your prosperity notebook. In the Amish community, whenever there's a marriage and a young couple come together to build a new farm, they usually also need to build a barn for their farm. What happens is, if that young couple tried to build the barn by themselves, it might take a year if it's just the two of them trying to do it alone. Over the course of a weekend, the entire Amish community comes together and builds the entire barn in a day's time. So when the community comes together, they can do in one day what it might take one individual or one couple to do over the course of a year. Now it's time for our seventh tradition. Every financial UA meeting ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. There are no dues or fees for financial UA membership. All of our meetings and workshops are completely free to attend, both over the phone and face-to-face. Please do keep in mind that we do have expenses, such as covering the cost of our website, developing new literature, and maintaining our service office. If you would like to make a seventh tradition donation, you can click the PayPal link below, or visit our website at financialua.org and click the donate button. You may also support this program by purchasing a copy of our Financial UA 12 Step Workbook or our Financial UA 12 Traditions Workbook. You can also help us carry the message by subscribing to our channel and even by sharing this video with your sponsor or your sponsee. Lastly, please consider clicking that like button, a big thumbs up for service. Sharing is an act of individual ownership while also letting other people be a part of the process. So sharing or surrender is not about 100% letting go of something. It's about holding on to some of it and also letting other people have part of it as well, so that we share it, we enjoy it together, we get to experience it together. We learn how to let other people into our process. When we learn how to share, we learn how to let other people in. Our recovery process is no longer a closed system. We learn how to open up and accept help and be in relationship with other people in a positive way. At this time, I want to encourage you to interview 10 prosperous members in recovery about their experience with Step 3, learning to share. Ask them what was their experience with learning how to share as opposed to keeping all of the control to themselves. Ask the people you interview, what does sharing look like? Ask them, what kind of things do you share and exactly how do you go about doing that? Ask them, how do prosperous people let other people in as opposed to shutting people out? And finally, ask the people you interview, what's the difference with sharing with somebody as compared to dumping on somebody? You may also ask any other questions you wish during your interview. And of course, do consider inviting the other person to say the Serenity Prayer or Prosperity Prayer or any other prayer that both of you can agree upon, and to say the prayer at the beginning of the interview, because what that does is it invites the spiritual presence to come in to help create and hold the space for healing and recovery. When we forget to invite a higher power into what we're doing, especially if it involves other people, almost always it ends up turning into a battle of will between two people and their egos trying to have power and control over each other. The only way that I've found to navigate away from that type of situation is to invite the higher power into the space at the beginning, and that higher power acts like a spiritual referee to help keep the peace within the relationships and within the conversation. Everything you learned during these interviews, I want to encourage you to write about it in your prosperity notebook. Write down all of your deeper spiritual awarenesses. Write down any aha moments you have. Write about how step 3, learning how to share, becomes spiritually active in your personal life. Because when we engage each step, we bring that step to life, and then that step starts to trigger, in a positive way, all sorts of interesting experiences and phenomena in our personal life. So be aware of those kind of experiences and write about that in your prosperity notebook. Write about how step 3 comes to life for you. Finally, I want to encourage you to discuss everything that you've learned, everything that you have reflected upon, all the conversations that you've had with the people you interview, all the conversations you've had with your sponsor around this idea about learning how to share. I would encourage you to share about this and to process it in any financial UA meeting or workshop. When you share about your step working process, other people can learn from you. And again, in any spiritual program, everybody's a student and everybody is a teacher. So just as much as your sponsor is teaching you, you also are teaching your sponsor through sharing your experience, and you're also sharing and teaching everybody else in the program, everybody else in the Financial UA Fellowship, when you share what it looked like when the step comes to life for you. Lastly, I'd like to ask you, how are you going to reward yourself for all the positive actions you've taken doing step 3, learning how to share? How are you going to reward yourself for the 10 interviews you did with other members in recovery? How are you going to reward yourself? How are you going to give yourself a celebration, a prosperity day, if you will? If you'd like to learn more about a prosperity day and what it looks like to reward yourself, I would encourage you to click this link right here and watch this video as a refresher. Now's the time for sharing. Who'd like to take a share? In the comments section below, please share your experience, strength, and hope around working on step 3, learning how to share. What did it look like for you as you learned how to share? What kind of realizations did you have? What kind of aha moments did you have? If you have any questions about the topic, Step 3, Learning How to Share, you can ask your questions in the comments section below. If you'd like to suggest a topic for a future video, please put that in the comments section below, and we can make a video that addresses your topic. If you enjoyed this video and found value in it, please like this video by clicking the thumbs up button and give us a big thumbs up for service. And of course, please do consider subscribing to the Financial UA YouTube channel. Every time you subscribe to our channel, you help us to carry the message. You can of course share this video with your sponsor or your sponsee or anybody else that you think can benefit from this video. As we move towards closure, please visit us at www.financialua.org or email us at financialua@gmail.com. Now, let's close with our prosperity prayer. God, grant us a serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, the wisdom to know the difference, and the prosperity to afford it. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and helping us to create and hold this space for healing and recovery. Please help us carry the message by subscribing to our channel and maybe even sharing this video with others. But most importantly, keep coming back. Hey, thanks so much and have a great rest of your day.
God grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, wisdom to know the difference, and the prosperity to afford